Hi, this is Abraham El Jaguar, a professional game master. Thank you for your questions. This is my questions and answers video to celebrate my 2000 subscribers. Let's get started. Pride Ryan asks, when did you start gaming? That's a good question because it sounds like a general question. When it comes to the formal process of engaging in an activity where you have a win and lose condition, a bit more formalized, perhaps I started 5 years old, 4 years old, playing board games and video games, or attempting to play board games and video games, of course, at that age. There are a lot of things that you simply do not know what you are doing. I think when it comes to board games, it's probably Snake and Ladders. And when it comes to video games, it should have been Atari. Perhaps the Indiana Jones game or the E.T. game. Perhaps. So it was pretty early on, give or take 5 years old, 4 years old. It's difficult because, well, you could say that ever since I had some awareness, I started to get into games. And it's tragic. There are actually some people that spend a lot of years without actually playing a game. I knew well, he wasn't a friend, more like an acquaintance back in school. His parents disallowed the use of video games in his house. No video games whatsoever because they would distract him from his studies. He was the guy that always got the best grades, ended up being a drug addict, so that didn't help at all. Probably because he couldn't enjoy his childhood. He couldn't take the pressure. So, yes, that was pretty tragic, but when it comes to my case, I am glad that I got to start playing games from very early on. And I am actually quite disappointed, saddened by the fact that I went to school, because in school they teach you all sorts of crap, useless crap. So I would have preferred to be homeschooled and have more time playing games, all sorts of games. Of course, when it comes to my answers to these questions, I am going to be quite honest about them. I am not going to give you the answers that I think will give me more subscribers or anything like that. So these are my answers, whether you like them or not. I still hope that you find the video entertaining. When it comes to role-playing games, I have talked about this before in a few videos, but it was about when I was 14 years old. And it's going to be, yes, now 28 years of playing tabletop RPGs. So it truly has been such an amazing journey. Although, like I said, I wish I could have played a lot more. And thankfully, I am still playing even as a professional activity when it comes to running games professionally. But that's when I started gaming from very early on, and later on when it comes to tabletop RPGs in my early teenage years. And this connects pretty well with another question, a follow-up question. Thank you for your question, Pride Ryan. Mechem68 asks, what martial arts styles have I studied? I started with judo, but then I had to quit that because I moved to another city. And then I practiced taekwondo, but it was a very sports-like type of discipline. That is, it wasn't focused on real life situations. It was more focused on the sports side. And that was quite harmful to my development. I started to get into a sports-like mentality. And later on, I learned Kaiju Kendo, which is a combination of karate, jiu-jitsu, kempo, and jiu-jitsu. That really got me into the mentality of surviving out there. I took the Kaiju Kendo base that already had striking techniques due to kempo, taekwondo, karate, and the jiu-jitsu grappling. Very different from what I learned later on from catch wrestling. And I also integrated taijutsu moves. You learn so many things that your core system, in my case, my core discipline of Kaiju Kendo, transformed into something else completely. So it's unsurprising how so many martial arts disciplines are more advanced or differ when compared to others. And I kept on going, learning and teaching, even to this day. Let's see. Good tips for finding a virtual or face-to-face group. There are so many videos out there and websites that give you all sorts of advice. I have also talked about that in a few videos in my channel. So I'll try to come up with some newer stuff or more nuanced explanations. I think that a good tip or advice is that you have to put yourself out there. Don't be afraid of interacting with many players. You're going to run into some terrible players and terrible people overall, but amidst all of them, you're going to find a few pearls here and there, some really valuable people and players that will perhaps accompany you throughout your entire role-playing game career. Who knows? So my first tip would be, don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Interact with people. Of course, in a safe way. What I mean, and not that safety crap, no, the woke crap, no. I mean, the if you're going to go to a place to play a tabletop RPG, make sure it's not like a shady place, or that that family and friends know where you're going. When don't invite strangers to your house just like that. It's better to handle things in a neutral ground, etc. That's when it comes to face-to-face groups. But when it comes to virtual groups, it's a bit easier like that. Now, this is a bit of a self-promotion, but I would definitely recommend that you participate in professional tabletop RPGs, like in the Start Playing Games website, because people are putting money to play. So at the very least, you know that that person doesn't want his or her money to go to waste. The moment they are paying, they want to commit to the experience. They're not going to be, in the most cases, they don't want to waste time. Nobody's time, not their own time, not somebody else's time. So I think the professional games is a good way of finding people out there just like you that are looking for a group. And as a game master, the same things more or less apply. So it's all about, like I said, put yourself out there. You're going to interact with lots of people. Perhaps you will have some unpleasant situations, interactions, but it is inevitable as long as you're looking for others. There are so many people that spend decades not playing tabletop RPGs because they don't want to interact with others. What a waste. And now that we can play online, because a few decades back it wasn't possible. But now we have all of the advantages to play online. So a good tip, just do it. Go look for people. Go look for people here in YouTube or in the Start Playing Games website, the Discord, wherever, Reddit. Take calculated risks, of course, but that's the best tip. Put yourself out there. And make sure that the players you're going to be playing, more or less based on the description of the game, etc., they are more into the sort of experience that you want. If you want like to have a chat room, like a conversation with dice and beer and pretzels, and you get into a group with serious role players, or vice versa, right? So make sure that you enjoy the time that you spend playing tabletop RPGs. It's another way entirely when it comes to balancing participating in the game and role-playing. That is the mechanical and the role-play side of the session, the game mechanics. But make sure that you play the session that you want to play. Time is quite valuable. Look for that experience and put yourself out there. Don't waste your time or other people's time. Let's see. What are your skills or work besides Game Master? Well, like I said, this is me being completely honest, out in the open. But a lot of mysterious things, mysterious skills, the properties of herbs, plants, metals. A lot of you already know that I am an occultist. And just to dispel some myths from the various religious people, a true occultist is not a religious person. An occultist does not worship gods and all of that. An occultist is more closer to like a philosopher or scientist. Some people think, look at Freemasons or anything, and they think, oh, they are occultists. No, they are a cult. They have things that they worship and make pacts with. So that's not an occultist. So when it comes to healing myself, and just a disclaimer in case YouTube gets too sensitive, YouTube, this is all science fiction. When it comes to fitness, health, I have advanced knowledge on that. When it comes to the graphic or creative endeavors, I participated a few years after I came out of college as a director of graphic design projects. But then they started to push their political agendas, and I couldn't continue in that line of work without compromising my own ideals. So I ended up earning a living as a martial arts instructor and doing some odd jobs, let's put it like that. That's another set of my skills. Perhaps some of you do not have experience with these sorts of activities, but like I said, if you want to consider this, oh, that guy is pretending or something, I have knowledge of dealing with problems that are not solved in conventional means, let's put it like that. Another way to put it, you know, all those horrible cases of curses and hauntings, and people usually come to me to help them with their unusual problems. Of course, always for a price. So those are my skills. You could say that an occult type of path with knowledge on metals, the properties of herbs, the occult principles. In Mexico, here we still follow the old ways. We are still quite connected to the natural world. So for us, it is quite common, at least not in the places that are too urbanized. We still have that connection. And I think that a great example that is a very healthy connection and part of my skill set is that I take a look at other people. I am going to be 42 years old this July. And I take a look at all of those people with chronic and mental problems. They need glasses. They are bald. They are fat. They look 30 years older than they actually are. So many bad things about them. The digestive problems, the respiratory issues related to their heart, circulation. And I think you're going to tell me who is sane and who is crazy? That you are to put it, pardon my French, a fucking mess? So, take that as you will. Definitely, there is more to life than what is revealed, and there are many skills that you can develop if you pay attention and do not allow yourself to be brainwashed by the mainstream. Okay, next question. List some favorite live-action films in the horror, fantasy, and sci-fi genre. There are so many good movies out there. This is a very difficult question. Perhaps I will just mention some on the top of my head. When it comes to horror, well, there are two. Well, and unsurprisingly, Frailty and the name of the movie, A Dark Song. I think that's the name. Two occult themed movies. For those of you that haven't seen those movies, they are incredible. They are beyond the standard horror film. There are so many good movies out there. Wow, I just thought of The Witch when it comes to horror. Even though this is a bit like action horror suspense, Le Pack de Loup. But going back into Frailty and A Dark Song, I think those are the two best representations. Although they have so many fictional things, but the two best representations of the horrors of approaching the occult in a misguided way. To approach those supernatural things. And I am glad that with the current technology, more and more evidence is being revealed. Unexplained things related to sound, images. You know how they even took the Kinect from Xbox and turned it into the SLS or XLS camera, and they managed to capture entities in a room that we cannot see. Whatever those things are. The movies of Hereditary and A Dark Sun, they show you some of the most horrifying dangers of interacting with those things carelessly, and I would say through a religious perspective. You should take an attitude of being the master, perhaps even a friend when it comes to certain entities in that regard. But if you're always kneeling and begging to things that are not there, or to things that do not have your best interest in their plans, you're going to fail horribly. And Hereditary and A Dark Song expose all of that. And they also tell you a bit, for those of you that can see how things are, they show you why we are in such a mess when it comes to politics, division, ideologies in current times, and spirituality. You start to follow the thread to the cause of it all. When it comes to fantasy, again, so many. I actually really like Willow, the original film of Willow, of course. And well, this sounds a bit cliche because I think a lot of people got introduced to fantasy films through The Lord of the Rings. Seriously, I remember back it was in high school. Yes, high school, I started to talk to my friends and acquaintances about The Lord of the Rings, and they were like, oh, that's for losers. Oh, what is that? Oh, do you need to read a book for that? That's so boring. Oh. And then the movie came out and, oh yes, The Lord of the Rings, it's such an amazing, typical normie behavior that they just want to latch on to anything that was a bit underground before, and suddenly it's like the trendy thing, the popular thing. I remember one time I was in college, and there were these couple of guys, like I said, never into those things, and suddenly they were the experts of The Lord of the Rings because they watched the movies, and they were like, do you remember that scene in Doria when they fought? And I was, Doria? What is that? Where is Doria? And they were like, you don't know what Doria is? And I oh, you mean the Mines of Moria? You mean Moria? And they were like, yeah, ridiculous. Being all snobbish, and they didn't know crap, but okay. So, The Fellowship of the Ring would be one of my favorite fantasy films. Specifically because, although I like The Two Towers and Return of the King, The Fellowship of the Ring, I think it is one of the best fantasy films of all time. When I saw that fight between the last alliance of men and elves against the forces of Sauron, one of the greatest moments in my life. I saw it on the big screen, and I was like, I was about to cry. I can't believe they actually made it a reality. So yes, definitely Fellowship of the Ring. Now when it comes to sci-fi, like I said, a lot of people, there are so many good sci-fi films out there. Although, as some of you may already be aware of, you could rather say sci-fantasy. But I would say John Carpenter's The Thing, even though it also could be applied to horror. But just the way that the main characters are pulled out of their everyday life activities, even in that remote location. And they started to take on a situation that they would have never expected before. They knew nothing about, and they cannot even trust each other. The Thing from John Carpenter. even when it comes to Alien, the first film, that sense of discovering something that breaks every conception you had, any sort of idea you could possibly that could possibly be within your mindset of other creatures, other beings, their technology, their alien purposes. It is so fascinating. So I would say John Carpenter's The Thing, the Alien, the first film. But I think those movies, as long as you don't fall into a certain complacency, they also allow you to open up your mind and figure out some things in reality. So definitely watch movies, but do not lose control, or rather, do not lose your connection with the reality of things, because there are some people that are stuck in the fiction of movies or any other fiction, even video games. They cannot escape that. They go into this square, this box, and they are trapped there. But those games, movies, books, role-playing games, comic books, they should allow you to expand your awareness rather than shackle it or contain it or lock it away. Moving on to the next question. Well, thank you, Meckham68, for your questions. TW Bellevue asks, is there anything in particular that influenced your game mastering style? This connects to the other question that I have mentioned. That time I saw the game master in Texas when I went to visit my relatives in Texas, and I saw this guy running the game so seamlessly, the entire session in character, only mentioning the results of the roll of the dice, but everything else in character, discovering information about the game world through roleplay. That was my major transformation. It was the true beginning. It was just a year after I started to play tabletop RPGs, so it would be either at 15 years old or a bit before that. And that's what started it all for me when it comes to playing a role and playing a game in tabletop role-playing games. I'm going to put a link in the comments to my video where I talk about my first horrible role-playing session, in case some of you haven't seen it, because I actually had a terrible start when it comes to playing tabletop RPGs. Perhaps you will find it entertaining. Moving on from that to the other question, be it some advice you received or even some television or game series that's close to your heart. Well, there are so many out there. Perhaps the Dot Hack series, in a certain way, because there is something that one of the characters in the anime series Dot Hack Sign mentioned. The character was Bear. He played a blade master, a bit like a fighter in that game world. For those of you that do not know, Dot Hack, it's about the lives of people in real life, but they also have their lives in the gaming environment, and many strange, unexpected things happen within the game world. But there were many philosophical moments in that anime series. There are many philosophical moments, and Bear was thinking, hey, when we play video games, and this is not the exact quote, but when we play video games and you lose, your character dies, game over, and you start again, right? You load a new your save file, or you start the game again, you reset the game. But then Bear thought, if we consider those fictional realities as real, as actually something that exists somewhere, all of those people in that particular playthrough, they have suffered calamities, they have died, they have been destroyed, because the villains have won. The hero died, and now the villains have conquered everyone, or destroyed everyone, or whatever, enslaved everyone. So imagine all of those game over moments. Each one of those game over moments represent fictional realities where all of those people are screwed because the hero died and the villain won. The bad guys won. So it got me thinking, Oh, that's related somewhat to tabletop RPGs in how you when you roleplay, when you are in character and your character dies, it feels that gut wrenching moment, or you are suffering in the game, or you are experiencing your triumphs. It feels so real. That's why people enjoy tabletop RPG so much. You get to experience all of that in a safe environment, as much as some mm, political people want to push it into the hobby. The tabletop RPGs are safe. You're not going to die in real life if you get killed in the game. It's happening to your fictional imaginary character, a fictional reality, but it has nothing to do with our reality. You're okay. You can play tabletop RPGs and you are okay while doing so. But you can still experience those intense emotions while being safe. So I have mentioned this to many of my players when they express their excitement of staying in character and how they felt as if they were their character, as if they were in the game world. And then I tell them, did you notice that you suddenly started to go into the future? I'm into the future, or expressing the I want to separating yourself from your character. And why is that? Because the emotions were too much. It was so intense. It always happens in the more dangerous situations. Or perhaps if it is accorded or agreed upon that you should play in first person. Because you can also role play in third person, but if you're going for a complete immersive experience, the closest you can get, a first person, and suddenly you start to go into third person, my character moves towards, that's also a way of distancing yourself from the moment because it got too intense. And that tells you a lot about the unsurpassed quality of tabletop RPGs. They are completely powered by your imagination. Video games, not even virtual reality, nothing out there is going to ever get close to a tabletop RPG because everything happens in the moment, completely free because of the power of your imagination, not stimulated by any external thing. Even if you had the perfect virtual reality simulation, you will still be receiving stimuli from outside, from an outside force. Even when it comes to being very invasive in your mind, when it comes to those devices, it would still be something else, an outside agency acting upon you. But when it comes to tabletop RPGs, you go overclock. It goes from deep within your being, and that reality is projected, and it becomes more real than real. And moving on from that, so I would say, like I said, perhaps the Dot Hack series, but there are many movies, video games, etc. that get me inspired. Thank you for your question. Your questions, TW Value. Now, one question from Nazash. He mentions, I want to start with role-playing games. Could you recommend a solo game to start? Another bit of self-promotion. If you have never played tabletop RPGs before, Nazash, book a session with a professional game master, especially me. I will introduce you to the hobby. But if you want to go the solo path, I would still, even if you don't want to hire a professional game master, definitely find a good group if possible. But if you want to go to start in solo mode, I would recommend Scarlet Heroes. I think I recommended to you Loom. Loom is the most beautiful solo role-playing game that I have seen. But it is still, there are some moments that still feel within the choose your own adventure type of game book experience. But when it comes to Scarlet Heroes, you have everything that you need with that single game. It feels like an exotic version of Dungeons and Dragons. It's completely old school, but it has everything. You have your oracle to generate dynamically generate what happens during the game, the yes or no answers. We will talk about those in a few moments. The system to generate adventure sites, ruins, having adventures in the wilderness, within cities, within dangerous caverns, oubliettes, towers, haunted castles, etc. It's all there. But the most important thing, Nasash and everyone else, when it comes to enjoying a solo tabletop RPG, if you actually want to experience that immersion as if you are actually there, if you want to experience a journey into that game world, you need to roleplay. When it comes to avoid asking questions with the oracle instead of saying something like, is there an entrance to the castle? I look at the castle to see if there is an entrance. I look at the fortress, paying close attention to the location of windows, gates. Oh, there is an arrow slit over there because you make your roll, and there is an arrow slit just to your right. You start to generate that content. There are no visible entrances except the front gate, and then you can still roleplay. I move around the fortress, circling it completely to find other ways inside, and then you make your rolls. And that's how you start to get into the session, get into the fiction, generating the content using those oracles. It is somewhat tricky because, like I have mentioned before, you could say that the most important, the most influential person in solo role-playing is Tana from the Mythic Game Master emulator. Tana, it is quite obvious that Tana never experienced a role-playing session. It's more like having a conversation with a game master that is not actually there. And that's how the whole asking questions to an oracle process came to be. But you still have all of those amazing tools. Don't get me wrong, the Mythic Game Master emulator is perfect. In the case of Scarlet Heroes, it obviously takes inspiration from that. So use all of those tools to foster roleplay, to promote roleplay, rather than hindering it by having you asking questions to someone that is not there. There is only the player characters and the game world. There is no floating game master over there having a conversation with you. Nasash, engage into that experience, discovering things through roleplay. My friend Milra, we were talking about roleplay, and he mentioned that there was this session when he was looking at the ceiling. Well, he wanted to know if there was a chandelier above his character, and he would ask a question like, is there a chandelier above me? I look above me to see if there is a chandelier. And the game master will answer that question. Get into that roleplay and you will experience tabletop RPGs like you have never seen before. Incredible. Such a beautiful, delicious experience. You need to engage into it for you to actually know what this is all about. So Nasash, Scarlet Heroes definitely. If you already had like a role-playing game in mind and you wanted to really play it, like, oh, there is this RPG, but it doesn't come with a solo system, use the free TriCube Tales Game Master emulator. It's available for free I'm going to put the link in the comments. In DriveThruRPG, TriCube Tales, like a triangle, but TriCube, like a cube, TriCube Tales. It's a free emulator, and it allows you to solo any tabletop RPG out there. So, magnificent. We are truly living in the golden age of solo role-playing games. Just 1 or 2 decades back, you could say 2 decades back, you had so few of them, but now there is an explosion. So many of them. So many emulators, a lot of them free, and solo role-playing games as well. So, Nasash, you are in luck because just choose any solo RPG out there. Go to DriveThruRPG and look for those solo games. If you need further recommendations, just let me know and I will assist you. If you need some, oh, I saw this game, is this one good, etc. Beautiful. So yes, thank you for your question, Nasash, and thanks to everyone for watching this video, for your questions. It has been a pleasure to make this video. And more now, the channel, I don't know if it's something related to the YouTube algorithm, but I have well, at the moment 2007 subscribers, and they keep on going up and up and up and up. Normally it took a bit of time before I got like 1 subscriber, 2 subscribers, perhaps there was a spike, 10 subscribers, but now it's going constantly up. So this is such an amazing time for the channel, especially because of the sponsors and the professional game master activities on the side. Once again, thank you. If you have any other comments or questions, please let me know. And definitely consider booking me for a session. I am about to start this Final Fantasy VII inspired campaign using the Era Lost Legend role-playing game. You can play as characters such as Cloud, Tifa, Barret, Vincent. You can also play as these summon type of creatures. If you want to play like any of those things that they call using the materia, you can actually do it. So definitely consider that. I hope the campaign template will be approved either today or tomorrow. Sometimes they even take 5 days to approve them. Well, it was only that one time, but yes, I hope I can put that campaign listing advertisement soon in the community section of my channel. Thank you for watching. This has been Abraham El Jaguar, a professional game master. Thank you so much again, and see you later.